Thank you. And welcome everyone. Sorry we're delayed a few minutes. We'll move on here. So, do we have any public comment today on the agenda items as we listed? Seeing none, we'll move right on. May I have a motion for the approval of the January 23rd, 2020 minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. We have in front of you the Chief Financial Officer's report, and items A through E are reports. Are there any questions or comments on those reports? Seeing none, they're received and filed. I have also in front of you a request for ratification of expenditures and wires. G, request to approve the delinquent collections vendor, and a request to approve updated fee schedule. May I have a motion, please, for those three, F, G, and H?
Second.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. Andrew?
I have a question regarding G, request to approve the delinquent collections vendor. And I guess the question would be posed to the solicitor. The law firm that's entertaining the thoughts of doing this chore for us talk about assessing the property owner for associated costs with delinquent accounts. My question is, the Water Authority deals with the ratepayer or the customer. I know in our little town of Oxford, the borough deals with the property owner. We here at the Water Authority deal with the customer. So my question is, how is the law firm going to address the delinquent account of the customer if the customer is not the property? The property owner will say, that's an obligation that my tenant has with the Water Authority at the Water Authority's request.
The agreement that is before you today contains a schedule of charges that does not specifically break out the charges that would be imposed upon a tenant as opposed to a property owner if the customer was the tenant rather than the property owner. So we will get that schedule amended so it's clear that if there's a tenant who is delinquent, here's how it's going to proceed and here's what it will cost. And if there's a landlord that's the delinquent, here's how it will proceed. Here's how that's going to, or what that's going to cost. We entered into a consent decree back in the 1970s where we have to sign up tenants if they wish to be signed up. So the collection process and procedures would be different. We'll have them separately break that out before this agreement is implemented.
Well, one of my wonderings was the law firm seems very well credentialed, and golly, they do business with municipalities all over the state. And I would say a lot of municipalities deal strictly with the property owners.
Yes.
And I was wondering if this law firm knew that it was our situation where we deal with the customer, with the ratepayer, with the tenant, and not always are they the same as the property owner.
We'll make sure that that's clarified in the schedule of rates that we have when prior to us assigning. There are also some other changes there. For instance, we're going to request that we be indemnified in case there is a challenge for violating, for example, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. If they're doing the collection, we're going to ask them to bear all the responsibilities of complying with those laws, because we would have no control over their actions. So, I mean, the contract that has been presented to you, as it was received from then, it will still be reviewed and changed by Agnes's team and myself. That will address that issue and the issue that you just raised, and making clear how the collection proceeds against owners, how the collection proceeds against tenants.
And Agnes, there was a lot of work in your report, thank you. A lot of detail in that.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Any other questions? May we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Mr. Andrew?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Langsell?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor,
Did you do H already?
we did the roll.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's check. There was an executive session that preceded today's meeting. We ran a little bit over. I apologize. It covered litigation matters, which would include the 8 Commonwealth Court appeals, the 6 currently pending Delaware County court cases, and the 2 appeals in Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I'll talk about them more in a second. Personnel issues and also a security matter. That was the topic of our executive session today. I reported last month on the litigation matter that we were negotiating a standstill agreement with the city of Chester and the other parties in the case. We have achieved that. That's been implemented. Under that agreement, the appeals, no one will proceed further with the Commonwealth Court appeals. The Commonwealth Court has agreed to stay those 8 matters, and if Chester wishes, they can go through a bidding process, but do nothing further to try to see if they have any interest in selling us, and also that the city would no longer try to pass any ordinances or resolutions attempting to gain influence over our operations. The goal of all the parties is to get into court as soon as possible on the trust matter. That was the first of all these matters that was filed. So the judge has appointed what he called a discovery master that could resolve any issues that the parties are raising prior to that hearing. And he had preliminary given us dates in June, I think, April and June for that hearing, although nothing's been decided yet. So we're at a pause on all of the litigation until further notice, and I'll report on that monthly. Last month, I told you about the intent of the governor of Maryland to sue the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection over their alleged failure to clean up the Pennsylvania streams feeding into the Chesapeake Bay. We've been in contact with the Maryland Attorney General's office and some of the other lawyers representing them, have been talking to them. We have a common interest there because the alleged failure of the DEP to clean up those streams impacts the quality of water that flows into the Octavera Reservoir, both from the Susquehanna River and also from the Octavera Creek. So we're still talking to them about that. The primary driving force now in gathering information is that there is a repeated rumor that the Trump administration may be reopening various consent decrees that it has signed with sewer authorities in Pennsylvania, where the sewer authority entered into a court-ordered agreement where they promised to clean up their operations and not discharge runoff into Pennsylvania streams, and to do that within a certain period of time. We're evaluating whether or not any of the consent decrees that affect the water that flows into the Susquehanna have been reopened by the administration. And we're going to be reaching out to our federal representatives to see if they can help us gather that information. There are 2 parts to the consent decree. When the consent decree is entered into, it's usually entered into over the signatures of the U.S. Attorney's Office. But there's a remediation plan that is adopted, which is usually not done with that office. It's done with the EPA and or the DEP. There's a possibility that there's discussion going on without public notice about remediation plan. So we're undertaking an evaluation of whether or not we can find out what's going on there. So I'll report back, but no lawsuits filed yet. The 2 Supreme Court cases that I had mentioned were the cases that we filed initially, asking for certain communications between Act 47 coordinators, the DCED, and the different consultants and lawyers that are part of that orbit. Initially, we were denied access to those communications because of the claim of attorney-client privilege. We lost those cases at the Office of Open Records in Commonwealth Court, but we were able to prevail upon the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to hear them. So those cases will be heard probably in the next 60 days. Typically, the oral argument in those cases is broadcast live on the PCN channel. I'll make sure that everybody knows when that is, and we can have the ability to watch that either live or on repeat. Typically, in those kind of arguments, it's a limited period of time that a lawyer gets to argue. It may be as short as 10 minutes, but we've got to try to encapsulate all of our arguments in that one little brief period. And usually, the Supreme Court is a robust, interactive panel, and they ask a lot of their questions. But the underlying issue is, who does the attorney-client privilege extend to? And did the Commonwealth Court overextend those protections? Our argument is there's an important public policy consideration here for us to be able to find out, why and what the Act 47 folks were doing, because they weren't communicating with their own lawyers; they were communicating with other people's lawyers. So it's an interesting issue. It's important to tell the whole story about what has been happening to us, and I'll let you know when that will be. I suspect it's going to be in the next 60 days. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Any questions for the solicitor? Seeing none, you have in front of you the Director of Engineers report. Item A is a report and questions on the contract bids open. Seeing none, received and filed. In front of you also is items B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. May I have a motion on all those items, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any questions on any of these items? Mr. Ambrose.
I just noticed that there was a amended copy put on our desk, 20, excuse me, -003. Is that something that was included already, or is this an addition? With a little small print, just seeing
Right here?
Yeah, that was the bid tabulation from ductile iron pipe contract that was opened yesterday. It's just for information. We'll be presenting that to the board next month for action.
All right, thank you. Paul?
Brian, number F, the engineering evaluation on the electrical system at the Kelton Penix Bridge station. How old is that Kelton Penix Bridge station?
97, yeah, 97, 98, my friend.
And we've had electrical problems there very recently that I'm aware of.
Over the past 10 years, we've had issues out there.
25 years doesn't seem like much of a life. It seems like that's almost a new installation. Have we added things, or what? I guess that's why you're having an evaluation.
That's, the electrical engineering field, components have changed and gotten more modern today. And the old equipment, you can't find spare parts for the old equipment sometimes. So that's part of the evaluation to determine what we need to do to bring it back to its original operational condition.
Are there any other questions on these items?
I have one here.
Yes, sir.
The village green tank number 7. Didn't we do something to that before? Or is that the same one?
Tank 7, no, it's a brand new tank. As far as a recoating project, a year and a half, 2 years ago, we did, its sister tank is tank 6. We did repaint tank 6 a couple years ago.
Doing the same thing?
Same thing.
So 7 is the same as 6 that was done 6 years ago?
As far as size, yes.
And
Tanks,
as far as like the overall rehabilitation, is it the same project? Similar?
it's similar with the exception of, on tank 6, there was no lead in paint. The exterior coating of tank 6 did not contain any lead, whereas on tank 7, the exterior paint does have lead, so that requires more containment and special handling when they remove that exterior paint. That's the big difference between 6 and 7.
Are they both the same materials, are they steel?
Yeah, yes, they're steel tanks, yes.
Okay. And we had some issues with tank number 6, right? With that project? Is that the project that went south?
No, that's tank 2.
Oh, 2.
That's a concrete tank, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not going to fall in that same category this time around, this
No, sir.
contractor?
No.
Okay, thank you.
How long does it last normally?
A repainted tank, 15 to 20 years.
We have a guarantee on that in the contract?
I don't think we'll need one, John.
Don't buy one for me. I don't need 15 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Brian. May I have a roll call vote on these items, please?
Mr. Andriole?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Heitzel?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
You have in front of you, Director of Business Development's report, 2 items. May I have a motion for item A, the extension of the computer consulting services with Tech Guides? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Andriole?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Heitzel?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Item B is a request to approve a consultant agreement with H&H Multimedia Productions. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a question. I'd like to hear a little more insight on that process.
H&H Multimedia Productions also goes by the name of Can Productions. I know that's an old Shirley MacLaine movie, but that's all I remember about it. I don't know if that.
We're not going to sing.
It's a woman-owned business. It's headquartered in Oxford, PA. This is a continuation of the contract that we used to have with Bellevue Communications. They're available for assistance with the traditional things that Bellevue did, which was helping with the annual report and any kind of press releases. But we really have kind of been doing that more in-house. This group has more experience currently on direct mail, email communications, grassroots things, video, television, so on. They can do whiteboard communications as little as videos, and they can do grassroots campaigns. So we have worked with them a little bit in the past. I've observed their work for other people. I have confidence in them, and it's at the same rate that their predecessor was. So I would recommend that for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Mr. Andrew?
Mr. McDaniel, you say the rate's the same as the Bellevue division?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Andriole?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Heitzel?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. In front of you, you have a report on personnel. Are there any questions or comments regarding that? Seeing none, receive.
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I spoke too quickly.
No, no problem. The person that is being separated, is that position going to be reposted, or is it going to be contracted?
You mean the 2 individuals who are retiring?
No.
No,
And it says a construction engineer.
Um,
It says separation.
Yeah, the jobs will be posted.
Okay. Received and filed. We also have in front of you 2 requests for pension payments. And if I may have a motion for items B and C, please.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments relative to these proposed pension payments? Seeing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Andriole?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Weitzel?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Judge?
I have nothing.
Thank you. We have unfinished business and posting of an affidavit received and filed. That was a change in the board meeting date. Are there any further board matters? Anyone
Yes,
want?
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, this is my allergy. The AWWA, is that coming up real soon?
Yes, the AWWA conference is in mid-June. It's in Orlando. We have information. I will get it out to the board members this week.
Okay, because
Yes.
I was reading it says you better hurry up and reserve your room if you need to.
As normally we do have a few rooms that we have reserved. We'll give you the registration information. I actually have not received all the reservation information yet, but we'll make sure that you guys, the board members get it.
Thank you. Is there any further new business? Old business? Do we have any public comment on any matters? Anyone care to speak? Yes, sir. Can you just please, as usual, please give your name?
Yes, Stephen Eden from London Grove Township, West Grove.
Thank you.
So, as is reoccurring every month, I come up with different questions, but they're very similar. So, I ventured out to businesses and different things. They have no idea what's going on in Chester Water Authority. And for example, I went to the YMCA, which, you know, it's kind of like a financial impact to the community in the sense of this issue, where I'm looking at it in the sense that, you know, I'm a member of the Y, so they're a nonprofit organization. So the amount of water, they have 3 pools, 1 outside, 2 inside, and I've been to the other one. So they were concerned. I've been to other businesses and they don't even know where they pay their water bill. So it's interesting to, you know, say, hey, go talk to the management company. Talk to the management company and say they get separate bills. So it's interesting, the confusion of who's paying the water bill and the problems that are going on. So I'm just looking at it as a way, I think, Mr. McGee, we talked in a sense of different ideas, and I brought up different things, and I'm just getting more concerned that time goes on. And so, is there any comments so, in a sense, the domino effect is if something happens and you increase the water bill, and a YMCA has 3 pools and showers are running every day, they're going to increase the membership fees, which is not only a water bill that I'm going to pay, but my membership goes up. So if you go to a restaurant, you know, if you go somewhere else, you know, this is something that's larger than I think we really are looking at. And, you know, my concern is growing in a sense every time I ring a doorbell or walk into a business and say, you know where you pay your bill or who's your water company? So, you know, with the potential of what's going on, growth and different things or increases, you know, I think they're concerned, but what are we doing? I mean, you know, I'm kind of like one of these people, like, I don't want to talk no more, I want to do something, you know? And, you know, coming up with ideas and different things, I think we need to.
Well, we certainly appreciate your comments and you coming up here, and we are working on things and we are discussing things, and if you'd like to meet with Mr. Catania, I'm going to put more on his plate.
Yeah, I would.
After the meeting,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
would be grateful if you would just see him after the meeting, and he'll fill you in on some of the processes that we're going on at the moment.
All right, thank you.
But I would also state that one of the things you're finding out is that feeling of frustration of how complex and complicated this is as far as getting information out to our ratepayers. And, you know, it's wonderful to have everything on the website. It's another thing to find what you're looking for on the website.
Well, it is, and there's so much information out there that, you know, you could go in different directions.
Yeah.
You might not get the right information you're looking for.
Right, and just like you're finding out, I mean, is business community versus actual homeowner or ratepayer. There are two different needs there, so to speak, and
Absolutely.
everybody looks at it from their own direction.
Well, that's why it's bigger in